live on YouTube here. It's going to be a very intimate workshop. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Botsociety monthly workshop when we haven't been able to really communicate this appointment to our community. So, it's going to be a kind of an intimate episode. We're going to talk about testing your chatbot assumptions and testing your and exporting it to Rasa. If you have any question at any time, please raise your hand or write in the chat. If you're watching us from YouTube, you can join on Zoom as well if you want to interact. I'm not going to be monitoring the YouTube comments, as otherwise it's just too much stuff to keep an eye on. And yeah, so without further ado, let's start. So today I want to talk about, I want to show you a little bit the new stuff that we released recently in Botsociety, and now they can improve your conversation design workflow. And then I'm gonna show you examples of how to export your chatbot to Rasa specifically, which has been highly requested recently. And yeah, and we're going to take it from there. Again, if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the Zoom chat or raise your hand. All right. So if you're not familiar with Botsociety, it's a conversation design tool. You can think about it like Sketch or Figma, but for voice and chat. And so when you create a new design, this is the screen that you see. You can pick any preset depending on your project. You can see here I have my official presets, and you can also create your own conversational platforms. If you're interested in that, let me know, because I'm not going to cover that in this workshop. And let me show you some of the new things that we recently released that I'm really excited about. So let's say I'll pick WhatsApp here. And then we're going to dive into testing. So the first thing, if you don't know, Botsociety has a real-time collaboration feature. So I'm going to share this URL with you in the chat of the Zoom chat, so that you can also join if you want and ask questions while being on the design. And I can also give you edit access if you want, so we can collaborate and think about this stuff. So just click on the link and you'll be able to see it. I just shared it in the Zoom chat. If you're following us on YouTube, just join the Zoom. All right, so how does this work? Some of the new stuff that we released. So one of the most exciting things is what we call a touch-to-touch device. And so basically the idea is that for any type of preset, you may have multiple devices. So in this case, I have iOS and Android for WhatsApp. But if you create, say, a different type of interaction, for example, on the generic side, then you will have like a desktop and mobile. For the Google Assistant, you may have different type of multimodal experiences, and so on and so forth. And so when you do that, when you design for multiple devices, by default, we will always define your hey there, I see somebody joined the design. Please do that. It's going to be great to ask questions and stuff directly in the design. So yeah, now when you add a message, let's say I'm adding a message here, we will always add it on all the devices of the preset by default. And you will be able to, if you want, further define your design for a particular device, but by default, we're just going to apply it everywhere, so that it's just faster to design for complex multimodal interactions. So if you want to change this, so you see that by default, if I switch here, for example, I'm going to see this detach device option. And I have another example here, and this is, between desktop and mobile. And so now I add a message, for example, here, and if I hit play, I'm going to see it on mobile, and I can switch to desktop, and you see that the message is defined on both devices. Same thing for WhatsApp. So if I hit play, and I will need to discard changes there. I will see it on iOS, so on iPhone, but if I switch, I can see that I also defined it on Android. So this is applied to both. Now, what is interesting is that this is the default behavior. So you basically are always designing for all the devices available in your preset. And they can be more than 2. You can have, 4 or 5. For example, another thing is if for a specific device, you would like to have a different interaction. So I'm moving on to this other example here. Let's say that here you have your interaction on mobile and desktop, but you want mobile to have a QR code interaction that is not available on desktop. Then I can just create a new path, for example, and add my special interaction that is going to go on here. And of course, again, like by default, it's going to be added on both. But if I added the message, I can switch the device here and I can detach it. Once I detach it, now I can differentiate the interaction between the 2 different devices. Once I do that, for example, now I can change the content for desktop only, for example, or I can delete it altogether. So if I switch here and then I click on this red dot, now I deleted it. So if I save, I'll see that this is not available on desktop. And this is now a path, or at least a message in this path that is not available on desktop. Another thing that you can do is, again, let's say that all of your interactions are different between devices, and you actually want to define them one by one. You can also go here in the menu, click on devices, and now here you have 2 new options. One, it's going to allow you to switch the preview to of all of your messages in your design to another one. So actually, let me pick up another design that I have that is more complete. So it's a little bit more clear. So for example, here, right now, everything on mobile is selected. If I click here, devices, viewing, and I switch to desktop, now everything is going to switch to desktop. So now I'm previewing desktop. And another thing I can do is I can go in editing, and now I'm editing all of them at the same time, which is the default behavior. So it's going to be attached here. But I can go here and devices, editing, and I can choose to edit them separately if that's what you're doing at the moment. So this by default will allow you to, let's say I open the editor again, and it's going to be detached by default. So I think I need to refresh my page. And now you will see that page is loading. When I add a message, it's then detached by default. So now I can edit them separately. So this is one of the things that we released. It's going to allow you to quickly switch between these 2 ways of thinking about your multimodal design. On one end, designing for multiple devices at the same time, and on the other one, when you want to differentiate the experience between different modalities, you have a quick way of doing that. So this is the first thing. The second thing, I don't know if you noticed, but now right-click works in a lot of places. And So if I right click, for example, in the canvas here, I can click on create new path. I can create a conditional block. Actually, let me share this URL with you because I didn't do this and it's kind of fun. Every time it's unclear. Okay, here's the chat. So if you want to join this design and use it in your projects and stuff, you will be able to. Yeah, so I was saying we enabled right click kind of everywhere. So if you click on right click on the canvas, it's going to be create path, create conditional block, and paste. And if you right click inside a path, sorry, inside a path, you'll be able to split path or add a message. Split path is useful because it allows you to break down a path in two. And this, may be handy if you are looking forward to, divide the interaction somehow. Because now I have two separate paths here. Or if you want to add a message at a specific point in the path, you can just right click and then click on add message. And now I'm adding a message exactly at that point. So very, very handy shortcut. Another very cool thing that we released is drag and drop to select multiple paths. This is very cool. So if you want to move multiple paths at the same time, you can just, select them like this and then drag and drop them around. So this is very interesting, especially when you have a big design and you're just rearranging it. It's very, very fast. By the way, for the folks who joined recently, feel free to ask any questions at any time with the Q&A feature or to raise your hand. We didn't promote this event a lot, so it's more intimate. So let's take advantage of that. All right. What else did we release recently? Something that it's very interesting is the video resolution. So if you click on download and download video, now the resulting video that you will download will be in very high resolution. It's actually going to be double the resolution of the actual bot. So like if the phone is 400 pixels, the video export is going to be 800 pixels. And so it's going to be great even on retina displays in your presentations and stuff like that. So check that out. Those are the main things, I believe. If you missed the search in comments, we also released that. Cool. So this was the quick update on the latest things that we released this week. If you missed from the previous week, I really, really like the change color for paths. This allows you to change the colors of your paths. It's not going to affect how your bot works or your engineering exports, but it's very handy when you're creating a design to be able to mark some paths, even just for collaboration stuff. So yeah, and usually when we add new things or where you don't know what to do something, my suggestion is don't forget to check these 3 dots menus that we have scattered around. For example, here in the path, you see you have a lot of features here. Today I'm also going to be talking about the starting path idea. And same thing inside the design. There's the 3 dots and there is more stuff that you can do here. So don't miss that. Hey there. So all right. So today what I want to talk about is how to test your bot before it's built. So how to do prototyping, how to perform an effective Wizard of Oz testing for your bot. And then I'm going to be showing you how to export your bot to Rasa and how to basically hand over your design to your engineering team, regardless of what your engineering team uses as a building bot technology. Again, if I'm going too fast or if you have questions, just raise your hand or ask them in the Q&A section. I'll be answering those. All right. So let's start. So first thing is testing. So I created this design for this workshop. This is a curbside testing, curbside experience where the users, you can see here, this is the API path I can show you. It's a bot that will help users figure out their curbside pickup experience, picking up, stuff. I have the API path continues with the user providing his full name and the address. Now, to show you the split path, I kind of broken the flow of the conversation here because this is the end of the path. So let me connect it here. By the way, you can always connect a path by clicking here on the link button here, and then clicking on at the start of a path like this, and boom, this is going to be connected. So it's just going to proceed. But you get the idea, right? So then the user provides this, and their interaction continues. By the way, this is kind of a bad experience that I'm designing just to prove a point. Like, tell me your phone number and email address in the same message. It's probably not the best experience, but I'm not sure about it. So I want to test this assumption out. The other thing that I would like to do is I would like to, let me actually change the color back to default here. The other thing I would like to show you is the starting path feature. And so let's say that I want to test this design. You can always invite testers by clicking here on prototype mode. Once you click there, you can see there's no testing data, but you can invite testers here. And so I can now copy this link and invite testers. And if I click on test yourself, you'll see a preview of what the testers will see, with the caveat that I can stop the test at any time and edit my design, which is something that my testers will not, of course, be able to do. And so it would be great if you could test my design if you feel like it. So I'll show what to do. Alim asks, what is Rasa? That's a great question. So Rasa, it's an open source conversation AI framework that your engineers may use to build your bot. So it's one of the options that you have once you design your interaction bot society. Rasa is one of the frameworks you can export to. It's kind of like Dialogflow, but open source and hosted by the developer itself. It's not a cloud service. Alim, I hope I answered your question. Please let me know if you have more questions. Cool. So if you want to test my design, just do this. Go to the link there and just try the experience out. And then I'll explain how to kind of take advantage of the test data once you guys try it out. And I see Alim is asking another question. You probably guys can see it because it's panelists only, but while you try it out, I'll answer the second question. So Rasa is using a markup format that it's Yalm actually for a bunch of its training data. I'm gonna be showing you that as well. Great, so I start to see some data piping in from you guys trying my design. Please try it out, and I'll show it to you. I'll show to you like how to use this. If you don't know how to test the design, just go in the chat of the Zoom, and you will see the latest link is actually a tester link that allows you to try stuff out. It's a fairly big design. All right. So I'm also going to be launching an automatic test. The automatic test is a way to test your design without using a human, but with using an AI. So I'm just going to launch that as well. All righty. So we got some results here. Maybe some of you are still trying my design out, but I'm going to be showing you the data, and we're going to make a lot of changes to this feature in the future. So stay tuned for that. But even these ones are not going to go away. So it makes sense. I'm going to show them to you right now. So the first thing here on the left is you see a list of pending user data. And if you click on those, you will see different, the canvas will move to this spot where the tester or the testers left the data. And you will see here on the left-hand side next to your message what they wrote. And so you can do multiple things here. You can discard the content of this, you can discard this content. You can create a new message using this content, or you can approve it as utterance. So if you add it as an utterance, it's going to be added to the utterances here, which are basically the training phrases for that particular intent or point in the conversation. So I see here, none of those are actually valid utterances. So that's interesting. Like I should probably have a different design here that is actually just for users who want to say hello before diving into it, because that sounds like what people want to say here. So it is already informing my design. That's probably what I should be having here. Let's take another example. So here I can see everyone wrote their number. I hope it's not your real number, guys. But the point here is that I feel like this is very complex. And I was mentioning it before. It's kind of like I wanted to validate this idea that asking for the phone number and the email address in the same step may actually not be the best experience. And this is kind of validated by this test. If you take a look at this, because people are just writing the phone number only. So this makes me think, okay, I need to edit this. So I'm going to go back to the design phase here. And okay, so I need to do two things. One, I want to have an hello kind of interaction. So I'm going to right click here. I'm going to say create path. Oh, Angela's saying the bot only asked for the phone number in the test. Maybe it was a different no, I think the bot in that case asked for both. There's another part of the design here that is probably what you're referring to, Angela, where the user is asking, user is asked only the phone number. And that's fine, but it's a kind of a different part of the design. It's here, right? And that's okay. That's the case where the user asks, okay, I'm here outside and nobody arrived. That's probably where you arrived. And inside of here, it's a different part of the design. And you see that in Botsociety, it's kind of very visual. and very clear that those are two separate experiences, two different part of the design. Those are separate paths connected in different ways. And so for the user, as you rightly pointed out, Angela, this is not so visual, and that's fine. That's kind of the point of the conversational interaction, that it just feels natural. But from a designer point of view, you need to be able to visualize and to govern this complexity. And so it makes sense that from the tester point of view, you're like, oh, no, you just asked me for the phone number. But from a design point of view, it's like, okay, in this part of the design here, okay, we're asking for the phone number and it's fine. But actually in this part, which is a different interaction, let me pick it up here. We're asking for phone number and email address, and that actually does not work a lot. And I see that Alim also have some, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, both of you. But yeah, sorry if I don't. Alim is saying it asked for both, to him, his experience was that he asked for both the phone number and email address, but he expected, the bot to follow up somehow after it return and be able to input also the email address, which, it's not the case in this design, which is an issue, right? So it's a design issue. So yeah, that's great insight. And that's kind of what we're discovering with this testing session, which is what I wanted to show you today. So let's say that you have, okay, this is kind of a big mistake, a design mistake that I purposely put in to kind of give you a sense of why you should test your design. But there's a lot of assumptions like that, and some of them are not so blatant. And being able to validate them before your bot is built is kind of important. And so you can see that I have all of this testing data here, and I have this, schedule. So this actually, for example, this is fine. Like here is the phrase, the utterance I defined in my design is let's reschedule. Here, tester said reschedule, so I'm going to prove it because that makes a lot of sense as an utterance. So if I click approve it, you will see that now this is part of my design and it's a valid utterance. So yeah, so that's an example of a meaningful testing result that ended up actually improving my data. And this training data will be then used, we'll take a look at that, will be then used by my engineers to build a bot. Alim is saying it could be remedied if the parsing and fallback dialog when discovering missing data. Yeah, exactly. Like I could design kind of a slot filling interaction where actually let's do that, right? So like if I can right click here, I can add a message and I can say, okay, great, and what is your email address? Okay, and so like we follow up with this and we make sure that the user is actually providing it. At the same time, I have the feeling that having the question that asks for both in the same question is sometimes it makes a lot of sense. So sometimes you really want to the user to be synthetic, like in the same way that you would be synthetic and with somebody at the counter. So for example, let's say you need to ask the user, okay, where do you want to go and when do you want to start your car rental, for example. Then it makes sense that you ask both of those questions at the same time in the same message, that makes a lot of sense, because it's very natural to go back and say, oh yeah, I'm leaving Thursday and I would like to start from Los Angeles. That's very natural. At the same time, not everything is like that. So in this case, it's kind of unnatural to reply with both the email and the phone, like even in front of, let's say I'm signing up for a loyalty card in a shop, like in real life. I don't think that the person on the other side of the counter would ask me for phone and email in the same breath, right? They would say, what's your email? Write it down. What's your phone number? Write it down. And so we're kind of mimicking real life interactions here with some differences, but you need to piggyback on real life conversations when you're designing this type of interactions. And so I think here the idea makes sense. Like, why don't we use a slot filling interaction where we just fall back and say, okay, if you don't provide both data in the same answer, so let's say, tell me, so in this case, just to explain what I'm trying to say, when I say slot filling, the idea would be like, okay, we ask for both things at the same time, phone number and email address. And then if the user just provide one, which is, I think it's what Angela and Alim are pointing at, then we ask for what it's missing. And that makes a lot of sense in other situations. And I have another design that has that, and I'm gonna show it to you now. But for this specific piece of data, I think it's kind of unnatural, because these are personal things. These are complex piece of data like phone number and email. So you usually ask them one by one without slot filling. So in this case, the way I would improve my design after to test is tell me your phone number. That's it. And then I would, of course, also change this so that it's only the phone number. Okay, and I think this design will perform better. Okay, like we're just asking one by one those questions. Let me instead open up a design where I use the slot filling. Oh, I need to stop. Okay. I need a second to open this design. Yeah. So I have this other design. This is a lost and found bot. So the idea here is we're automating the kind of lost and found function of, I found something in the streets, I'm reporting it to you, not in the streets, in the public transportation, on the bus, or I lost something. And here I'm using the technique that Angela mentioned, where we ask subsequent questions only if the user did not provide data. But in this case, it's more natural than email and phone, because the question is something like, I lost my wallet in the bus, right? And then, okay, this is more natural. So like, what did you lose and when did you lose it? Then it's easier for the user to answer in a natural way, because it can be a phrase. And this actually mimics more the real life interaction, right? And again, it's not to say that the interactions that you design have to be exactly the same as the real life interaction. And actually, they can't be the same. They should not be the same. But at the same time, they need to resemble them in some way, so that your users can piggyback on the real life experiences they have, the real life conversations, and to understand what's going on. And the parallel that I like to make is the one of the desktop. So when Apple had to come up with the Macintosh, when they were coming up with the Macintosh, they needed a way for the users to understand the concept of file system in an operating system. And so they came up with the desktop metaphor and the trash can and all that kind of stuff. And of course, when you see the trash can on your computer, and you see the desktop, you know that that's not a real desktop, but it doesn't matter. Like it's enough for you as a metaphor to make you understand what's going on. And of course, it's not a realistic trash, but it resembles your real life experience with throwing documents away or keeping documents on your desktop. And when you're doing conversation design, you're kind of doing that all the time with a conversation, right? You are partially mimicking real life interactions, and you're trying to and you're creating these metaphors for the users to latch on to make the experience easier. And so and as Alim is saying in the chat, and please keep this going, guys, I'm excited about the comments. And as Alim is saying, is like in-person interaction, not in-person interaction. The context is different. The interactions can be different, and I agree with that as well. So that's definitely something to consider. Okay, so for example, just to make another example of that, in this case, my lost and found bot is asking, okay, can you tell me what did you lose, when, and where? And so the user can just say, an hour ago in the bus, what did you lose, a wallet, stuff like that. Or you can just say everything in one go. I lost my wallet in the bus. Boom. And then I skip to that point. So you can also use this design pattern of, slot filling different pieces of data so that you come up with an answer at the end. But it really depends on the type of data that you're retrieving, and especially how natural it is for the user to provide you with all the data in one go. And sometimes it's easy to kind of make that assumption. Sometimes it's not that easy, and you should probably test it out a little bit, even with a small amount of users, right? Even with just 10, 15 users. And then, okay, in this case, I proceed. I have some conditional blocks that tells me what to do with the backend API calls and stuff like that. Anyway, it is a different design. Let's go back to the pickup example. So one of the things that you may end up having in your design, and then I'm going to go back to the next question. I just want to say this. One of the things is that you may have, some path here, and you don't actually want to test this, right? You're actually not interested in testing this. Or maybe you are, I don't know. So one of the features that you can really use when you're testing is the starting path. So when you mark something as starting path, first of all, how to do it. So there's 3 dots here next to the path header. And if you click on the 3 dots, then this menu opens up, and then you can say mark a starting path. And if you press it, now this is a starting path, and you can tell because it has a blue shadow. And now when you hit play, you'll be able to start from the starting path. So you see that the play is only showing that. And if instead, you can also have multiple starting paths. So I can also go here, again, click on the 3 dots, mark also this as the starting path. And so now if I hit play, Botsociety is going to ask me to pick the scenario, so pick the starting path that I want to play here. This is going to be the same for testers. So if you want, if you have a big design and you want testers to go and test a specific part of your design, just mark it as starting path and unmark the other starting paths that you have. And that will, funnel your testers directly there. It's very handy, especially if you have big designs. Let me delete this path now, otherwise it's going to be too messy. I saw another question here in the chat. Is there a way, so Alim says, is there a way to determine how effective an utterance is? Is there an A/B test option to select utterances from different audiences? So are you thinking about, when you're saying utterances, are you referring to the messages from the bots or the messages from the user? Because you can have utterances on both sides. And if you have utterances from the bot, then those are, so for example, like to add an utterance in Botsociety, I can edit a message or add a new message. You see this message here, this number here, and I can click add new. And now if I click add new, I can change this message. I can say, for example, hi, I'm Star. And here you could say something slightly different. And the reason why you would like to do this is in real life, you don't always say exactly the same thing over and over again. And so if your bot can have some sort of variance, then it's going to feel a lot more natural. It's kind of counterintuitive, especially if you worked with UI, where the UI on the other end has to be very consistent and very similar to itself over and over again. From the bots. Okay, so yeah. So this kind of utterance from the bot, I suggest that you use it to make your bot feel more natural. And they should be equal in terms of design. Like they should not represent different design ideas. So for example, like here, if on the second utterance I say, I can help you with anything. Now this is this is a very different thing to say. And so now this, these two messages will be shown at random, but actually they reflect different design ideas. I would not do that, because then your performance of this bot, it's going to be very, very different, because the users that will see I can help you anything are going to say very different things compared to the ones that see I can help you order coffee and pick it up, right? So that's how I would use utterances from the bot side. To test this, which I think is your question, like, can I test these two ideas? And you definitely can and should, but I would not use the utterance feature for the reason that I mentioned. What I would do is I would use the, I would do this. Let me actually show you. So let's delete this utterance. That's not how I would do it. So I'm going to remove it. Okay, so now let's say that I want to A/B test, and I want to A/B test this idea and the other idea that I was mentioning, where instead of saying I can help you order coffee and pick it up, it just says I can help you with coffee, like a different context for the user. And so the way that I would do it is I would click on here on the three dots, and I would say clone path. And now I can clone this path. I'm going to put it here. Right. And now you have two paths which are the same, but I can change the second one and I can put my new design idea there. So let me zoom in. So I can say I can help you with coffee. And so there's a different design idea. And now I can say, okay, this is, test A, right? And this is test B. So I have both. And now I would run two separate test batteries. Like I would have one group of 5 people test A, one group of 5 people test B, and then I would see what they say. I don't think that running 100 tests it's very handy as of now with Botsociety. We're working on having more statistics, because I see your question about statistics and analytics, but it's arriving. As of now, I think it's very, very important to be able even to run smaller kind of Wizard of Oz UX testing type of thing rather than scaling them up. And let me show you how to wire that up, since you're asking about it in the chat. So, well, the first thing is I would connect this path B to the rest of my design so that the rest of the experience is the same. And so this goes here. Oops, sorry. Wrong click. This goes here. And then what else? Yeah, what is your name? Goes here. And order number goes here. Okay, so now I have my, I set it up my path B, basically just reestablishing the connections so that it connects to the rest of my design in the same way that path A does. Right, so that's the first step. Now, second step is I want to run, well, we need to decide what do we want to run first, A or B. Let's say that I want to run A. And so I'm gonna zoom on path A. I'm gonna click on the 3 dots. I'm gonna mark it as starting path. Right, so now if I can check it out by clicking play. If I hit play, I will immediately see path A. And I will not see path B, right? Because they're not connected and it's gonna go down this route. So now I would run a test of this, okay? So I would go in prototype mode, I would click on invite testers and run this. So let me do an automatic test here just to show you but automatic test is an AI doing the test. It's not a human. A human would be better, but I don't want to spend an hour on this, so I'm just gonna run it automatically. And then what I would do is also, once this is run, I would go back here, click on the 3 dots, remove this unmark from path A. I would go here, mark this now as the starting path. Now, if I hit play, you will see it only play path B. And now I would run the test again, right? Now I would run the test again and see the difference in engagement, see the difference in what the users are saying, if they understand what the bot is about. Did I answer your question? So if you do this, this is a very powerful way of like trying out your design. So you go back to prototype, you invite testers again, and you see the differences. Yeah, so like, okay, here it's ordering a donut. Okay, maybe it's actually fine, etc., etc. So yeah, I hope I answer your question, Nalim. So that's how you would run an A/B test. And we're kind of running short on time, so I guess I will have to talk more at length about Rasa next time. But it's very interesting to answer your questions. So that's why we're doing these workshops. So it makes a lot of sense. I wanna. Okay, we can talk about this later. I can show you more examples of A/B testing here. So, all right, so exporting to Rasa. So to export in general, not only to Rasa, you have what we call the build mode. So the build mode is here, is the third icon here on the left. If you click on it, you're gonna switch to build mode. Now, build mode allows you to do two things. So the first one is you can mark up intents and entities inside your design. So for example, here, like Botsociety has auto-assigned the intent called new path intent 4, but I can rename it and I can call it, welcome intent. And you will see that this is renamed. And you can change the intent for every message. So for example, like, what is your full name? I want this to be a different intent. So I'm just gonna click on it and I'm gonna say, welcome intent name. And then I can just click on add and boom, this is gonna be added. And same thing here, welcome intent name. Since it's already created, I can just find it and that's it. And so why is this, sorry about that. Why is this important? Because you can actually differentiate between your design structure and your intent structure. And so your engineers are not bound to your design, to the way you used Botsociety to design your bot when they are thinking about the intent structure. And of course, like, there's a shortcut to assign all of the messages inside a path to the same intent, but it's just a shortcut. You don't need to do that. So like here, you can see I have different intents inside the same path, and that's totally fine. So that's what you can do. The other thing that you can do is you can define entities. And that's also very important. So in a conversational interface, the entity is part of the conversation that changes every time, that represents some sort of piece of data or context. So for example, here, this is a name. So there's actually an entity called name. So to mark it up, let me show this again. You just select what you want to mark up as entity, and then you just type name, for example. Press enter, boom, that's it. Done. Same thing here is a phone number. Phone number, and so on and so forth, right? Like, you select each of them. And once you have all of those set up, then you can start to export. And the cool thing is that this setup will work for any platform or any format you want to export to. So here I have some examples. Those are the official modules, like the official export modules. But you can ask your engineers to create more, or if you're on the enterprise plan of Botsociety, also the Botsociety team will help you out. But here the idea is that it doesn't really matter what is the format that you need or the platform that you need. Botsociety supports that. So you can export to Dialogflow, you can export to Rasa. Let me show you Rasa. So Rasa, oh, actually, let me show you the easiest example, which is CSV, which is basically Excel. So like, if you select CSV, you click on export, Botsociety is going to generate the CSV export. You see I downloaded it here. Let me open it up. Excel is launching. And you will see that it's a representation of my design. And if I select Rasa, it's basically the same idea, but yeah, so you see here I have my Excel export of my conversation. And you can see there's also the intent. and the content. And if I attached an image, I would also have the image URL, which is very handy. So for example, you can see here, there's an image. Okay, with Rasa, it's kind of the same idea, but we're exporting a Rasa project. So there's a few more options here. I can select the first intent, the device, which actually I want to select chat app, and then the export map. So the export map, the idea is that you may have your own format for your bot. Because, for example, maybe you created your own message type that, I don't know, has up to 500 cards on the carousel or something like that. Like Botsociety supports that, but you will need to create an export map. So you will need to tell Botsociety, okay, this translates to this inside Rasa, so that we know what to render. It's a pretty advanced feature. There's some links in the documentation. If you ever need to do something like this, just reach out in the chat and we will help you out. How to reach in the chat. Always here on the top right, you have ask a question. And there's the support chat option, boom, and you can ask us a question. So do that. Yeah, and so if you click on export to Rasa, let me show you this again. Like you click here and then you click next, you choose the default export map. In this case, if you have custom ones, they will show up here. And then you will get your Rasa zip file with everything. So you just open it up and you will see it has all the different features that you need, the different files to kick off your Rasa project using, sorry about that, using your the data of your design. So it's very, very interesting. It's a fast way to kick off your Rasa project. I don't have time to dive into that because we're arriving at the end of this workshop in some minutes, but this is how you start your Rasa bot from a Botsociety design. There is a few things to keep in mind when you're exporting to Rasa, and they're all connected to how you plan to use the different Rasa features, how you plan to use the different intent structures that Rasa allows you to have. And that will be reflected in how you name and select the intents for each message. So I'm probably going to create a dedicated video tutorial on this topic, but this is how you get started with it. All right, great. This was what I wanted to show you today. If there are any questions, please leave them in the chat. I will answer to them now. Otherwise, I'll wait a couple of minutes to see if there are more questions. Otherwise, I wanted to thanks everybody. I see there's a question. Can you initiate an external action from the dialogue? Yeah, so the way that, I'm sorry, I'll read it out loud. Alim is asking, can you initiate an external action from the dialogue? For example, someone uses the bot to set up an appointment, that conversation can trigger sending an email to the person. So yeah, so that's what I would do in Botsociety. So in Botsociety, I would, let's say that you want this action to trigger an email, for example. So I would click on the dot and this creates a connection. I would click somewhere here. I would click on conditional block. And I would say, send an email to X with Y. I don't know. I would describe it for my engineering team. Then once you export this, so let's say you export to Rasa, then you can connect this block to whatever custom action your engineering team will write the code to do, right? And so, for example, Rasa has a feature that is called action that actually can trigger arbitrary code that you write into your Rasa project to do actions. And so we see a lot of our customers, they basically have action library, and then they just add here it says like action, I don't know, sending email, and that will translate into sending an email down the pike, the development portion. So I hope I answered your question, Liam. That's kind of how I would design it, and then export it, and then leverage the action feature in Rasa. And yes, thank you for sharing that article. That's like an example of how to use the Rasa export with Botsociety. It's a very detailed example that will guide you through every step of the way, both of the Rasa project with the code and of your Botsociety design. I suggest you go through it if you're also a developer of Rasa, or if you're interested in understanding more how it works behind the scenes. And also this article, I'm linking the Botsociety file that I used to as an example for this tutorial. So take advantage of that. Just don't forget, like every time you visit a design, even if you don't have edit access to it, you can go here in the menu, click File, make a copy, and add it to your Botsociety account so that you can then edit it. So it is very handy, especially in those cases. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for spending time with me today. This was a very interesting workshop, I hope. We went through a lot of stuff, the new features that we released this week, the testing of your design, the UX testing, I should say, how to A/B test a little bit, and how to kickstart your Rasa project using your Botsociety design. We have a lot of new features coming down the pike very soon that they're going to involve a lot of the things that we have seen today. So I'm looking forward to that. If you have any feedback about the tool, please let me know. We're always thrilled to see what the community say. Thank you very much for staying with us today. We're going to have probably another workshop in a month or so. And so until then, keep designing.